Hi, my name's Vince Sheehan and today I'd like to talk about Alfie, the 1966 film starring Michael Caine and directed by Lewis Gilbert, based on a play by Bill Norton. And this film essentially is about the hollowness inherent in leading a promiscuous and self-centered lifestyle. Alfie is this guy who is a womanizer, I guess, and he goes around 60s London picking up women, quite often married women, but he's not bothered. He just goes for any women, it seems. And you've got to say that he is a charming character. I mean, you can't help but like him in a way. He's very misogynistic. He's incredibly selfish. He's always on what he calls the fiddle, you know, kind of being dishonest at work, etc. But despite all these things, you can't help but have an affection for him. And I guess that's the appeal for the ladies who he's after, you know, in 60s London. And he's played unforgettably by Michael Caine, of course. You know, and this really is, you hear those caricature Michael Caine impressions, you know, my name is Michael Caine, you know, that kind of thing. Well, that, I guess, stems from this film. He even says at the beginning, my name is, and then you hear this girl, this woman go, Alfie. So, you know, it's just, Caine is, you know, he's just sheer star quality in this film. He's so likeable, and despite the more unsavoury elements of the character he's portraying. The film is essentially in 4 acts with an introduction and a coda. Right at the beginning of the film, Alfie is kind of fooling around, you know, having sex with this lady in a car. Her name's Siddy, she's a married lady. And we get to find out what Alfie's about here. You know, he just wants to, he just loves women, and he's not out to upset anybody. But, you know, he says he leaves the women with a smile, you know. And, but really it's about him and his desires. It's what he wants. And very early on, you pick up the fact that he doesn't call women her or she. He tends to call them it, which is quite disgraceful, of course. And they're really objects for him. But what's interesting about this film is that Alfie continually breaks the fourth wall. So he's always talking to us, the viewer, which is quite charming, and quite often he just kind of glances at us and gives us a knowing look or a wink, etc. And that adds to the charm of the film, I think. Probably from its origins as a stage play, I guess. So in this introduction, he's in his element in a locked car, the windows are steamed, having it off with this woman, Siddy. And then we get into the film proper. We find out that Alfie has what he deems a standby, and her name is Gilda. And she's this rather pretty lady, down-to-earth lady, perhaps lacking self-confidence. And she clearly hangs on any attention Alfie gives her, and Alfie visits her, you know, and they're having an affair. And she has this guy who is besotted with her, Humphrey, and he's a bus conductor, and he's complete opposite to Alfie. He's like dependable, he's loyal, he's not particularly charming or good looking, but he's definitely a safe bet for Gilda. But perhaps in the back of her head she realises that he's probably a more viable option than Alfie, but she can't resist Alfie's attentions. And it transpires that Gilda is pregnant, and she eventually gives birth. And Alfie although a reluctant father, and he's even described as a weekend father by her, he grows quite attached to young Malcolm. And, you know, there's some rather touching scenes with him and the baby. But he's very much an arm's length kind of dad for most of the time. And then we move into the second act. And here we find out that Alfie is unwell. Perhaps he's picked up a sexually transmitted infection. Anyway, goes in, he has an x-ray, and he's got he's something wrong with his lungs. So he has to go away to convalesce in this hospital in the countryside. And of course Alfie gets involved with one or two of the nurses there, and he becomes friendly with this guy called Harry, who is this very rather dour person who just really looks forward to his weekly visit from his wife Lily. Eventually Alfie is discharged, but he comes back to visit, and he takes Lily home back to London, and Alfie can't resist but seducing her, and we come back to Lily later. In the third act we see Alfie at work. He's a chauffeur, and he stops at this service station. He sees this pretty young lady, Jane Asher, played by Jane Asher, and Annie, her name is in the film. And he takes he manages to take her off this other guy, and then she just becomes this kind of domestic prisoner to Alfie, and she's still kind of in love with this guy she knew before when she lived in Sheffield. But Alfie goes out, gets drunk, gets involved with a brawl in a bar. He comes in and he's not particularly nice to her, and you know, he throws her the meal she made at the wall, but he behaves appallingly, and she leaves him, and he immediately recognises his mistake, and but it's too late, she's gone. The fourth act, we're brought back to Lily. Remember, Lily was Harry's wife, who Alfie had kind of seduced, and it turns out she's pregnant, and Alfie's arranged for an abortionist to come, and this is, you know, but before the time abortion was legal, so they have to do it in a very underhand, secret way, and this rather seedy guy played by Denholm Elliott turns up. Quite a very memorable cameo, actually. He comes in and he performs the abortion, and you know, this is like the dark heart of the film, really. You do really feel for Lily, and you know, Alfie just wanders off and leaves her in his flat, and Alfie stumbles across a church, and inside is Gilda, and she's now with Humphrey, the bus conductor, and they have another child. They've got Alfie's child, Malcolm, who is now, you know, Humphrey's is basically his dad now, and they've got another child just been baptised. And this is quite a powerful moment in the film, because Alfie's just brought death, really, and he doesn't really bring anything to anybody ultimately. He just takes things away, and of course the limit of that is the abortion. This baby is aborted, and but Gilda has chosen someone who brings life, and there's that spiritual analogy. You know, this baby now Gilda's got is being baptised, you know, that new life. So there's that very interesting juxtaposition there in the film. Alfie goes back to Lily, who's now had the miscarriage, and Alfie sees the aborted baby, and This is the only time in the film where you see him let his guard down, and he seems momentarily devastated. He then leaves Lily, and he meets up with his friend Nat. Now, as a subplot in the film, Alfie's also involved with this rich, older American lady, and she's very flirtatious. You know, she's clearly not taken in by Alfie that much. You know, she's probably in control of him, and indeed, she's got a younger guy at the end of the film, and Alfie's rejected. And that brings us to the coda, where Alfie is on a bridge, Waterloo Bridge in London, and he's just thinking, you know what, I've got no attachments, no commitments, I'm a free agent, but I haven't got peace of mind. And that's kind of the point of the film. He slowly realised throughout the course of the film, through his actions, through his selfishness, through the abortion, the fact that all the ladies ultimately want to leave him. Even Siddy, the married woman we meet at the beginning, who just sees Alfie as a laugh, she's not keen to meet up with him at the end of the film. And he's left as this rather lonely and forlorn character on a bridge. And perhaps life isn't so rosy and carefree for Alfie as he thinks it is. Alfie's a thought-provoking film. There are quite good, you know, I guess because it's based on a well-regarded play, you know, by Bill Norton. There's many interesting themes about life, about love, about lust, adultery, death, about the choices we make. But I think you leave the film with this sense of enjoyment, really, despite the heavy themes, a sense of enjoyment of the central character of Alfie, you know, played brilliantly by Michael Caine. It really is an unforgettable performance and one that lives long in the memory. Thanks for watching. I've just included a brief slideshow of the structure and main themes. Bye.